So I briefly just wanted to, well, not so briefly actually, this might be a pretty long video. I wanted to speak on why I believe it is extremely hard, if not nearly impossible, to be a rapper or a big artist in Rwanda. And I believe in God. I believe in miracles. And I think if something is meant for you, if something has been assigned to you, it will not miss you. So I'm not being a hater. If anything, I'm being supportive. And with support comes honesty. It's good to be honest, especially when these aspiring artists are people that I know. These are people I know. Some of them I went to school with. I want to see them win. But it seems like no one talks about these things, okay? And I truly believe I cannot be the only person that has figured this out. Everything that I'm about to explain. These are observations that I made, and I'm not even in the industry. I'm an outsider looking in. But I had a conversation with someone that works closely with these rappers and artists, and he actually agreed with everything that I said. So these are roadblocks that are very real. But I feel like everyone is just hyping each other up. No one is really coming out and talking about this openly and addressing that it's not about talent, because I listen to my friends' music. The talent is there, but it's not about that. It's something systemic. Okay, so I made a list of about 6 roadblocks, and the first one is Rwanda is a very small country. Everyone knows this. I think the population is about 15 million, and I don't think these upcoming artists realize how small that is. That's a very tiny market. When I try to explain market size and scale, I like to compare it to other African countries since we're in Africa. Nigeria, as an example. Nigeria is a very big market. If you make it locally as an artist, that is enough to gain you regional momentum for you to be known across Africa. It also allows you to cross borders and go international. We've seen Burna Boy go big in the UK and well, maybe not so much in the US. I think that's a very distinct, difficult market that even Americans find hard to break into, the music industry, let alone foreigners. But that's another conversation. My point is, that cannot happen with Rwanda because the market is very tiny here. The local success cannot gain you even regional momentum. It's very rare. Someone like Bruce Melody, he's not big in Nigeria the same way Rema is huge here. Rema is known across Africa. Bruce Melody is not. So that's a very good example in terms of scale and market size. Now, the second reason is language barrier and flow. I realized that when I was listening to all my friends' tracks, that a lot of them actually rap in English and have a very interesting flow. And this is a barrier because I think a lot of them don't realize that they are in Rwanda. You're not in the States, you're not in America. Don't rap in English because how are you going to connect with your local audience? Most people, the youth, does not speak English. Very, very few people speak English. And I am talking about mostly like these bougie kids that I know are from Kigali. They're bougie, like I know. So if you're rapping in English, you are creating a disconnect with most of the youth in Rwanda. And I don't think these upcoming artists realize that there are people beyond Kigali. Kigali is a very small city. It has only about, 1.6 million people. That's such a tiny audience, and not all those 1.6 are going to be listening to you. So the problem also then becomes, if you rap in Kinyarwanda, let's say that you decide to adapt to your environment, you now close yourself off to international opportunities. You're not going to get discovered when you're rapping in a language that really, it's not familiar, it's not international, the way English is. Do you think your song that has this American flow, there are a few artists that are doing it well. There are that are building an audience across different cities, but most are not. And I mostly mean these bougie artists. If you can have a show in Kigali, can you also have a show in Gisenyi, Muhanga, Rubavu, Nyanza? These are cities that are part of the country. You can't just focus and narrow down on Kigali. I actually think the smartest thing would be for an artist to use Swahili. Swahili seems like the perfect bridge. But then again, the question becomes, do you know Swahili? And Swahili is very exportable because Kinyarwanda is too local and English is too foreign. So if you can't go abroad, e.g. to the States, And if you don't want to box yourself into Rwanda alone, Swahili is the regional language. It would help if you want to expand your market reach in East Africa because you're in the region and have a bigger economy, reach more people, aka more revenue/profit. And you could get big just like someone like Diamond. So I don't understand, like, it seems to me they're not thinking about this. The second issue is actually, well, 3 roadblocks that I'm just summarizing into one. Algorithms, economics, and competition. Now, I use YouTube a lot, and I know that YouTube feeds off of regional data. So let's say, for example, you post your music on platforms, and let's say it goes beyond 200,000 views. YouTube knows where it's being watched and who's watching. So it's going to see that most of the people that are watching are Rwandans. So what is it going to do? It's going to push it to more Rwandans. That means that the video is circulating within the country and it can't really go beyond. It's rare for it to go beyond. And that's why I usually tell my friends that being known in Rwanda, I wouldn't say is fame. It's not fame. You're just popular. It's more like social recognition because it's not even an industry. It's more like an ecosystem where different rappers and all these upcoming artists are listening to themselves, hyping each other up with a limited audience, limited resources, limited structure, and all these things. And even, let's say, for example, like I said, I believe in God. Let's say a miracle happens and somebody lands on your video. I mean, someone doesn't even have to land on it. Let's say, for example, you up and leave and go to the States, for example, or the UK to compete there because you feel like maybe you want something bigger. Maybe you want to be discovered. That's the best thing that can happen to you because the American music industry is the very top. The odds are against you. And the reality is, if a gatekeeper is gonna pick someone, they are most likely not gonna pick you. 9 times out of 10, as painful as it sounds, they're most likely gonna pick someone that is from there because that person most likely is the audience is gonna resonate with because they're already part of that environment. Okay, they understand its cultural fluency. It's a lot of things that tie into it. I feel like for an artist, a very big challenge that they have is cultural rejection. That's a very real thing. And it's not just about money. It also means connections. So it really ties into so many things. And also, I think the big issue is that artists don't realize that most of the youth in Rwanda is not only outside of Kigali. Not only do they not speak English, they don't even have smartphones. They don't have Spotify. They most definitely don't have Apple Music. I know these artists are paying to have their music on these platforms. The other issue that I think is actually a huge problem is the culture. Rwanda is an extremely conservative country. So a genre like rap is not only niche, it's very niche. It's niche because most Rwandans mostly have an appeal to songs, not really rap. Maybe it is changing as social media rises, but for now, that's the case. So it's niche, but it is also extremely stigmatized. A lot of people associate that with things like violence, drugs. And that's not always the case. That's what people don't understand. And that's what's so hindering. They see them as thugs. So this is actually a very big problem. And the thing is, the Gen X, the older generation, is still running things. But that's why I said that maybe things could be different in the future when they either evolve, which is unlikely, or they retire, which they will, but is it in the near future? No. And they are the gatekeepers. They run media, they run entertainment. So they don't understand youth culture. So until that generation is out, which it's not soon to be, it's still going to be an issue to be an artist. So now the issue becomes, are you going to wait until the Gen X step down? Are you going to wait? Because they're still going to be running things for at least the next, my projection, maybe 10 years or 12 years. Will you still be making music the way you have been for maybe the past 2 or 3 years? Even if you persist and you're still making music by then because you have hope, your music is not going to be the same because you're going to be spent. You'll be wary. It's not going to have the same creative energy. Art needs fuel. What makes the process worth it is the outcome. If you're not seeing any tangible results, what's the point? I had a TikTok live and someone was like, well, the process is what matters, and as long as you do what you love. But don't you think that if that's something you're pouring all your effort and time into, it has to have a return? And if it doesn't have a return, then that's a hobby. And that's fine, but call it what it is. So at the end of the day, it's good to sit down and be honest with yourself. You're not in the most promising place. You're not in the best market. Choose between adapting or going away to compete, because those are the two most realistic options. So you either change, adapting means you compromise so it could fit the Rwandan market for you to have local success. And by local success, I mean countrywide success, not just Kigali success, because there are other cities outside of Kigali. So really, going abroad and competing with foreigners also is extremely difficult. So you have to pick your poison. Now, success looks different to different people. Maybe you may not want to be big globally, and that's okay. Maybe you just want to make it within your small circle. That's completely fine. One person that I think has done it really well is someone like Israel Mbonyi. He, I think, is really big. He's huge here in Rwanda and not just in Kigali. He took two things that are very appealing to Rwanda. Singing, not rap, because that's niche. Singing has more appeal. Also, the question becomes, can you actually sing if you choose to change from rap to songs? He sings, and he sings gospel. So he's going through churches, which is a very big thing in the country. Rwanda is very religious. So you have to be strategic. You can't just be vaguely optimistic, you know? You have to have a plan. So that's what I think. That's my opinion.